Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 5th of November, now it's not even 1 o'clock at night, Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and news that I'd like to share with you for this moment, but first of all let me explain why am I recording and uploading this update in that unusually early. So point is that yesterday on 4th of November in Russia we were celebrating Day of National Unity, and all around Russia, in cities, in small towns or villages, local governments were trying to come up with some interesting program for public, for celebration, and of course Moscow is not exception, and there are very interesting programs in Moscow that are associated with history, present days, achievements of modern Russia since the collapse of Soviet Union. I think what I see from advertisements, it's gonna be very interesting, and I decide to go to Moscow together with my family. I think it will be quite interesting and educational for my kids to learn some more about Russian regions, by the way, about history, events. Hopefully they know. They learn at school quite well, but still any additional information is great, and of course they will get to know with the modern achievements of Russia, and of course I will make videos, at least for a Patreon page, but I will definitely try to make video for my second channel. Second channel is also on YouTube and Rumble. And when it comes to second channel, by the way, maybe not all of you knew about it, but I do have a second channel under the name of
Today is Saturday.
Under the name of from Russia with Levan, and I did upload yesterday some short video. It's only about 9 minutes, short video about evening or night Russia. It's a kind of compilation of videos that we made previously when we were visiting Moscow, and if you have time, please check that video, and if you are not subscribed to channel, please consider to do so. At this point I only have on that channel 864 subscribers, so that is quite a way to go, really. And when it comes to this channel, by the way, it's at this point I only have like 6 videos there. It's not about politics or news, it's about just life, ordinary life in Russia. And link, by the way, is in description box to the second channels of on YouTube and Rumble are in description box under this video, and it will be also in the pinned comment. Okay, that's been said. First of all, of course, I wish you a great day. Today is Sunday, so I hope you will have a great day, and I hope you have a great weekend. And when it comes to news, of course, short summary of the situation on the Ukrainian battlefield. Yesterday Kiev regime did try to conduct quite a large-scale combined missile strike on Crimea during the afternoon hours, and according to reports that I see, including on Rebor channel, by the way, and Rebor is the biggest military channel on Russian Telegram, on Russian segment of internet, I will say, on the Telegram specifically. And according to him, 4 Su-24s of Ukrainian Air Force launch 8 Storm Shadow or Scalp missiles in direction of Crimea in direction of Kerch, and I presume Kerch Bridge or Crimean Bridge, and also in direction of Berdyansk, which is on the Azov Sea, by the way. Here, this is Berdyansk. And well, Russian air defense systems were ready for such a development, and all missiles were shut down. But unfortunately, fragments of one of the missiles fell down on a shipping yard in a Kerch area, and as a result of that, some fire broke out on the ground. But according to reports that I see in major Russian media outlets, for example on RIA Novosti, Sergei Aksionov, head of Crimean Autonomous Republic, did make a statement about these strikes, and he said that all missiles were shut down and no reports about casualties on the ground or about any more or less significant damage. Also, by the way, simultaneously with this attack, Kiev regime conducted strike in direction of Tarkhankuk Cape Tarkhankuk, which is here, by the way, Tarkhankut, and according to Riber, several Neptune missiles were launched by Kiev regime, and the Russian side at that moment launched its MiG-31 interceptors, and according to Riber, all those missiles were shut down by MiG-31, Russian MiG-31 planes. No significant damage yet again, or any reports about casualties. But strike on its own was quite large in the scale and combined. I remind you, during the previous days, Kiev regime was trying to strike Crimea with the drones, with dozens of drones, also unsuccessfully. But yet again, we can clearly see attempt from Ukrainian side to overwhelm Russian air defense systems by using these drones, different type of missiles, decoys, by the way, because according to Riber, Kiev regime used its MiG-29 and Su-27 fighter jets to launch anti-radar harm missiles also in direction of Crimea, and some decoys. But fortunately, well, it seems like Russian air defense systems and Russian Air Force did manage to deal with all the threats, and all the missiles were neutralized. When it comes to situation on the line of contact, let's begin with the Kherson region. Main hotspot in Kherson region is this settlement Krinky, by the way. This settlement here in between Korsunka and the Kazachий Lager, and according to latest reports, Ukrainian forces did manage to gain back control over the central parts of this settlement. Quite a long village, by the way, that begins almost from Korsunka and up to Kazachий Lager. Quite a long or wide, how should I say, settlement, and central part of it seems like is under control of Kiev regime. And unfortunately, Russian forces, not all the Russian units did manage to retreat during the attack of Ukrainian forces safely, and some units did come under fire of Ukrainian forces, and Russian side did had, as a result of that clash, some significant casualties. But overall, still situation is under full Russian control. And when I'm reading informations about Kherson sector, I get feeling that possibly Russian side is trying to create some trap in Kherson region on the banks of the Dnieper river. Basically, Russian forces are kind of inviting more and more Ukrainian forces on the left bank, and it does make sense somewhat, because I remind you that Russian forces left right bank of the Kherson region because of some issues with logistics, because it's not easy to supply and support your forces when there is a huge river in between you. And Russian side did make the decision to leave right bank of the Dnieper River. And if Ukrainian forces, if Kyiv regime will continue these local scale offensives, and if even widens this offensive by conducting crossings of Dnieper River on other areas, for example, around Novaya Kakhovka, let's say, or somewhere else. And if Kyiv regime will send thousands and thousands of military personnel on the left bank, well, I guess they will find it hard way that it's going to be extremely difficult to support and supply these forces. And then at that point, Russian militaries may take advantage of these difficulties or among Ukrainian units, and we may see encirclement of quite a big or large number of Ukrainian military personnel. But at this point, as I said, main hotspot is this settlement Krinky, and there are some reports that Ukrainian forces are planning to conduct crossing of Dnieper River in some other areas also. So, of course, I will continue to monitor news about this region, and if any additional information, I will share it on my Telegram and on next updates. When it comes to Zaporozhye and South Donetsk sectors of the front line, main axis of this so-called Ukrainian counteroffensive, initiative is definitely in Russian hands. When it comes to Orekhov direction, there were no significant changes. They were just local scale skirmishes between the sides, and both Russian and Ukrainian forces are at this point are managing to keep their positions. When it comes to, although by the way, we had reports that Russian side, and this was reported yesterday afternoon, that Russian side from this settlement Nesteryanka did conducted some local scale offensive operation in direction of this gray zone. And well, that may be one additional indicator that little by little, step by step, Russian forces are preparing ground to conduct more significant scale of offensive operations in this area to encircle Ukrainian grouping of forces in this Orekhov bridgehead. And I remind you, dear friends, that Ukrainian forces during all this time of this so-called counteroffensive only managed to establish control over the Rabotino settlement. And that's it, really. And meanwhile, quite a large number of Ukrainian military personnel are concentrated in these fields in between Rabotino, Verbovo, and Novoprokopovka. And we are talking about at least 3,000 to 5,000 military personnel that can be encircled if Russian side will conduct operation in Orekhov bridgehead. When it comes to South Donetsk direction, yet again, Russian forces are conducting offensives, local scale offensives in this Vremevsky salient area, and these local scale offensives are taking place for quite a while now. And it seems like, and by the way, Russian forces are regaining more and more territories on this Vremevsky salient. And yesterday afternoon, Military Summary, by the way, Military Summary channel, did reported that according to Dima, host of Military Summary, Russian forces are managing quite easily establish control over some territories on Vremevsky salient because almost all of the more or less capable brigades of Ukrainian armed forces from this area have been deployed to Kherson region, and they are now participating in the suicidal Dnieper crossing operations. And if that's the case, and Ukrainian side is lacking manpower in Vremevsky salient areas, then I guess Russian these local scale offensives probably will continue. When it comes to Donetsk sector of the front line, on the southern flank of Donetsk sector, main hotspots, of course, traditionally are Marinka, Krasnogorovka, and Avdiivka. No significant changes on the line of contact between the sides, Russian forces are little by little improving their positions in Avdiivka direction, but yet again, at this point, Avdiivka is in operational encirclement, and there is no need whatsoever for Russian forces to rush any operations, because they are in good enough positions to distract supply and support operation of Kiev regime to garrison of Avdiivka. And my understanding is that in about 3, 4, 5 weeks, when Ukrainian forces in Avdiivka will begin to feel a lack of reinforcement, munition, and every possible supply, at that point, and when weather will become more cold, I guess at that point Russian forces will begin operations inside Avdiivka to finish off this grouping of forces of Ukrainian army in this area. So next 4 or 5 weeks, I guess Russian side will continue this local scale small offensive operations, just to establish better control over the roads, country roads, and highways that are connecting Avdiivka with territories that are still controlled by Kiev regime. I don't think earlier than 4 or 5 weeks we will see Russian offensive in Avdiivka itself. In December maybe, but no earlier than that. When it comes to Bakhmut, Seversk, and Kupiansk areas, also, by the way, no significant changes. It's artillery duels between the sides. Nothing is happening in the scale that will influence situation on these sectors of the front line, despite dozens and dozens of attempts of Ukrainian forces to regain initiative on any of the directions, in any of the areas. In these northern sectors, they are unable to do so, and yet again, Kiev regime is sending its military in this suicidal operation without gaining anything, really. And this is it when it comes to short summary of the situation on the battlefield. Main event that took place yesterday when it comes to zone of special military operation was this combined missile strike of failed unsuccessful missile strike of Kiev regime in direction of Crimea. And before I continue with the additional news, let me remind you, dear friends, that this project with several channels on YouTube, Rumble, and Telegram exists solely thanks to support of members of our community, and I will be immensely grateful if you will also consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, buy me a coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page, in which, by the way, I do upload some extra content on a regular basis. You can see links under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. That's been said, let's continue with some additional news. I did already reported about this combined failed missile strike in direction of Crimea by Ukrainian forces. Also, RIA Novosti is reporting, by the way, that Russian militaries destroyed warehouse where Ukrainian side was hiding its missiles in Chernigov region. And also, by the way, Russian forces conducted quite successful missile strikes on the training base of Ukrainian Kiev regime, right next to Polish border. It was a second strike, if I'm not mistaken, on that exact base. That base is usually used by mercenaries, foreign mercenaries, although of course Ukrainian forces are also undergoing training on very same area, and according to Rebirth, for example, Ukrainian personnel did train to use this Western-made military equipment exactly on that training ground. And probably Kiev regime was thinking that because this training ground is so close with Polish border, the Russian side will not risk to strike that area. But, well, I guess Russian militaries have quite a high level of trust in the missiles that they are launching, that those missiles don't cross border with the NATO member states, and that base was destroyed. There are some videos that are circulating on internet with quite a massive destruction of that training ground, and I guess foreign mercenaries and Ukrainian armed forces did had quite significant number of casualties during that strike. And also, by the way, military summary did reported and many other channels that in Zaporozhye region, if I'm not mistaken, one of the Ukrainian brigade leadership of that brigade made decision to conduct some award ceremonies, and many high-ranking officers were presented during that ceremony, and Russian side conducted missile strike on that area, and I guess at least few dozens of officers of Ukrainian armed forces were casualties as a result of that strike. Let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting, by the way, based on reports on the US NBC media outlet, TV station, according to which US and European politicians are beginning to discuss with the Ukrainian leadership or Kyiv regime, let's say, first steps towards peaceful negotiations with Russia. So that's quite interesting, isn't it? And NBC did report about it based on some US officials, unnamed US officials. So, well, it's up to us, will we believe in this report of NBC or not, but it's quite possible, really, because lately so much critical statements have been made in the West towards Kyiv regime and different officials of Kyiv regime, different representatives. So many critical publications have been made that it's obvious that Western leadership is beginning to accelerating preparation of the ground to for their way out from this crisis, from entire Ukrainian story. And one way to do so is to push Kyiv regime towards or prepare Kyiv regime for possible negotiations with Russia. Although I believe they're gonna find it extremely difficult. They're gonna find it extremely difficult because first of all, for many months, it was Western leadership that was also always saying that it's not time for negotiations. And they did propagandized Western public, significant number of Western public, I will say majority, and the very same that happened in Ukraine. People were told that, Ukraine is winning this conflict, and Kyiv regime will, defeat Russia. And now they're gonna find it difficult to explain themselves why Kyiv regime is losing, why Kyiv regime have to conduct any negotiations with Russia, and if Kyiv regime is losing, why you were sending so many billions to this loose cause. And what is most important, by the way, they're gonna find it extremely difficult to talk to Moscow, because first of all, who can Moscow trust? That's a big issue, isn't it? After statements of Western leaders, when they openly said that they were using Minsk I and Minsk II agreements to basically better prepare Ukraine for a conflict, and they were not intending to achieve peace. I mean, how Moscow can trust anybody in the Western leadership at this point? That's the first question. And secondly, Moscow is in better position. Moscow is winning this battle with the Western so-called elites. And why will Moscow negotiate anything now at this point? That's a question. That's a question. And will Western capitals, major Western capitals, agree on Russian terms during possible negotiations? So let's see. But information on its own is quite interesting. It definitely indicates some fatigue among Western leaders with this Ukrainian story, and I guess with Western public feels exactly the same, because during the previous update I did share with you some numbers from Gallup poll, according to which number of in US, number of citizens that are in support of Kyiv regime and in support of current policies of Biden's administration is declining significantly, and they don't want no more to see this dozens of billions of dollars to be sent to most corrupt regime in Europe. And by the way, RT is reporting that President of Russian Federation did also notice this shift in the Western approach when it comes to in regards to Ukraine, and he did spoke about it. He did made a few statements, and well, according to Russian president, Western nations, which previously insisted that Ukraine should defeat Russia on the battlefield, are gradually changing their position. Yes, that's basically correct, and exactly that was reported by NBC. Let's continue now, and RIA Novosti is reporting based on statements from press spokesman of Russian President Dmitry Peskov that destruction of Nordstream pipelines could become a reason for full-scale war. For full-scale war, because Russian side easily could interpret this strike on Nord Stream pipelines as a casus belli, as an act of war, and react accordingly. And well, by this statement, Peskov probably is trying to highlight how dangerous these Western elites are, and how important it is that Moscow is acting as adult in the room, because there is no one else. But yet again, one can understand that this cautious approach of Moscow is keeping world safe, but same time question will rise how long Moscow can act this way, because as we did see time after time, Western leadership is only escalating, and at this point, at least openly, no one did said even a single word about peace talks. Yes, NBC is reporting that, you know, some officials are beginning to talk about peace negotiations with Kyiv regime, but openly we did not hear any such a statement yet. In reality, what we see is constant escalation and deliveries of additional sums to Kyiv regime and additional weapons. And yet again, I mean, how long Moscow can, act this cautiously? I don't know. And by the way, RIA Novosti is reporting that, well, according to Russian Foreign Ministry's official statement, Moscow will react accordingly on deployment of F-35 fighter jets of US into United Kingdom. And this topic is important for Russian side because F-35 fighter jets are nuclear capable. And just recently I did report that United States are conducting this modernization of nuclear bombs. Well, I don't know what Russia gonna do about it. Probably few dozens of Russian nuclear warheads will receive coordinates of targets in the United Kingdom. If it comes to war, missiles will be launched, and then we all know what will happen. But before that, one more interesting topic is that F-16s, by the way, are also nuclear capable, and very same Rebel channel on Telegram did reported a few days ago that Kyiv regime already received at least 5 F-16 fighter jets. And I was searching for any response from Russian side, any statement, anything, but I did not see nothing. For whatever reason, Russian media is quiet about this topic. No statements were made, and Rebel himself did not retract his information. And I remind you, by the way, that Rebel this channel was created by a person who was working in defense ministry, if I'm not mistaken, in press service of defense ministry, and he definitely has some contacts in the defense ministry and some other in some other institutions also. And I don't think he shared with public this information about F-16s in Ukraine without having good enough information. So I find it interesting that no officials in Russia yet reacted on this development. Maybe they will react once Kyiv regime will begin using those F-16s, or when one of those F-16s or all of them will be destroyed. But yet again, if Russian foreign ministry is making statements about F-35s that are deployed in UK, by the way, nuclear capable, then I find it strange that there is no single word about F-16s, also nuclear capable planes, that was presumably delivered to Kyiv regime. Of course, I will monitor development around this topic, and if any updates, I will share with you additional information. Let's continue now. And TASS news agency is reporting that Kyiv regime will receive additional military aid from US, this time for 125 million USD, and also, by the way, some additional package over this one for $300 million. And these two packets of military aid are coming from different sources, and that's why they are not combined. These $125 million are coming from Pentagon directly, and additional $300 million will be used from some other funds, and this money will go directly to US military industrial complex to purchase some weapons. So Kyiv regime will not see this money. Not surprisingly, by the way, because as I said many times before, majority of sums that formally are transferred or are allocated for Kyiv regime, in reality is finding its way towards bank accounts of military industrial complex and corrupt officials in the US and in EU member states. But anyway, let's continue. And this aid, by the way, this military aid includes ammunition, and some military vehicles, and also air defense systems. That's 425 million. When it comes to 300 million packet, no additional information what exactly will be purchased in US military industrial complex for 300 million. Probably additional munition and military vehicles. And well, this is quite interesting, by the way. This is quite interesting. RIA Novosti is reporting that according to Ukrainian media outlet Strana U1, head of Ukraine's general staff can become a serious concurrent or competitor for Zelensky during the presidential elections, if presidential elections will take place in 2024. So I guess in Ukraine this presidential race has already begun. And if before it was just rumors that Zelensky and Zaluzhny had some difficulties in relationship, then now it will become open topic for discussions, and it's already open, by the way, because Zelensky yesterday openly disagreed with Zaluzhny. It was during the press conference when he and Ursula von der Leyen, this Tatars female, and what she was also saying, that Russians are using chips from washing machines, isn't it? I mean, how stupid is she, man? I mean, really. But anyway, Zelensky had a press conference together with this Ursula, who was in Ukraine, and promising God knows what, not really matters. And Zelensky did spoke about recent statements of Zaluzhny that was published in Economist about deadlock or stalemate on the battlefield. And I remind you that Zaluzhny in that article during that interview was saying that without some immense technological breakthrough, it will be almost impossible for Ukrainian forces to achieve anything really. And first of all, some Polish general did react on that statement of Zaluzhny, and that Polish general said that there will be no technological breakthrough because there is no weapons in this world that can help Kyiv regime to achieve any success in against Russia. And secondly, Zelensky also did react on this statement, and he said that people are maybe tired with this conflict, and even militaries pointing out Zaluzhny, but he is disagreeing that there is any kind of stalemate on the front line, and he is quite sure that Ukrainian forces are still conducting this offensive. He was still talking about some offensive operations. He is truly out of touch with reality, but this is first time, as I understand, when Zaluzhny and Zelensky began confronting each other openly on public. So let's see how will situation develop. If Western, it all depends on Washington and London, basically. If US and UK's leadership wants to remove Zelensky because everyone is kind of tired of him, then I guess one way or another, through military coup or through so-called elections, Zaluzhny or some other individual will take position of Ukraine's president. But if Washington and London want to keep Zelensky in office, then despite fact that Zaluzhny is probably significantly more popular among Ukrainians than Zelensky, I don't think he has any chances against him, because yet again Ukraine is under full control of Washington and London, and without decisions from US and UK's capitals, nothing can be done in Ukraine. Nothing. That's it. So and by the way, RT is reporting that Zaluzhny statements did begin creating some panic, not just in Ukraine itself, but also outside of Ukraine, in the Western states. And the aide of Zelensky, Igor Zhovka, did made quite strong statements about Zaluzhny. So confrontation is open, by the way, at this point. And according to him, Ukraine's commander-in-chief, Valery Zaluzhny, should have kept his thoughts about this stalemate in the conflict with Russia to himself. Because, said Igor Shovka, the deputy head of President Vladimir Zelensky's office. And according to him, Zaluzhny's comments have rattled some of Kiev's backers in the West. Well, to be honest, I don't think any government in the Western world had any doubts that Kiev regime would not be able to defeat Russia. Main goal, I guess, main goal for Washington and London while provoking this conflict was to demonize Russia, first of all, to increase military spendings among NATO member states, and to build new iron curtain between Russia and the West. All these goals were achieved. Washington and London did manage to achieve these goals, isn't it? And the next task for Washington and London probably was to deal as much damage to Russia, harm Russia as much as possible by using Ukraine. That's it. But I don't think anybody in the Pentagon, in the Langley, or in London, by the way, in MI6 or UK's Defense Ministry, or in Downing Street 10, ever had any doubts that Russia will come out victorious from this conflict. They were just using Ukraine, and they are still using Ukraine for the geopolitical interests, and that's it, really. So this individual is very delusional, this aide of representative of office of Zelensky, if he thinks that anybody in the West are surprised by statements of Zaluzhny. Openly, Western leaders, of course, will never say anything like that. But in reality, of course, they knew from very beginning that Ukraine, not Ukraine, but this Kiev regime, by the way, they are not representing Ukraine, in my opinion. That Kiev regime ever gonna win with Russia. Of course they won't. But anyway, let's continue. TASS News Agency is reporting, and next big topic, of course, is Middle East. And TASS News Agency is reporting that the Israeli army began, by the way, its raids in the southern Gaza also. So as we know, previously, main axis of Israeli ground operations were, when it comes to Gaza Strip, was northern part of Gaza Strip. But now they are beginning to conduct operations in the southern part also, and I remind you that according to different accounts, from 600 to 1.5 million people was forced to move from their homes in the Gaza already. Different accounts on different sources, but at least what I see is 600 and almost 700,000. 660 or 670,000 minimum, and maximum what I see is 1.5 million residents of Gaza that were forced already to flee their homes. And of course, all of them are moving towards South Gaza. And now, if this information is correct, and if IDF is beginning its preparations of the ground for military operation in southern Gaza also, then it's only a matter of days, maybe a week or two, and Egypt will find itself in very difficult situation, because they cannot kept close this border, by the way. They will be forced to begin receiving refugees from Gaza. But at this point, as you can see on the map, mainly military operations are taking place in the northern part of Gaza, and Gaza city itself is basically encircled. And some fierce fighting is going on there, by the way, because I cannot share all the videos that I see on my Telegram because they are too graphic, but I did share time to time some videos, including this about military clashes, and it is definitely fierce battles are going on in the northern Gaza at this point. You can check those videos on my Telegram, by the way, if you are interested. Let's continue, and we have a statement from Hezbollah, by the way, who said, and this statement is from yesterday afternoon, yesterday evening, and Hezbollah did make statement that they targeted 5 positions of Israeli armed forces in borderline regions of Israel on the border with Lebanon. But yet again, Hezbollah at this point is mainly stays out of this conflict between Israel and Palestine. And as you know, day before yesterday, head of Hezbollah did made a statement, and of course he did criticize Israel, he did criticize US, and so on, but he did not say that Hezbollah will enter this conflict. He said that they are in support of Palestine. He said that Hezbollah was caught surprised by this initial offensive of Hamas, but no single word about any plans to enter this conflict in full scale. That was stated by head of Hezbollah, by the way, day before yesterday. But on daily basis we are seeing more and more strikes on the Lebanon from Israeli side, and unfortunately we are closing into the point if Israel will not stop conducting its operations in Lebanon, we may closing into the point when Hezbollah will be forced to get fully engaged in this confrontation, not just in borderline skirmishes, but fully engaged. And in that case, we have regional conflict on our hands, because if Hezbollah is engaged, it will be only a matter of time when Iran will also find itself in the confrontation. So it's one of the major areas at this point is definitely this borderline between Lebanon and Israel. Let's see how the situation develops. But I'm afraid forces that are ruling basically Western world, they may use this escalation between Israel and Palestine to provoke confrontation between Israel and Hezbollah first, and then between Israel and Iran. And that's a regional war, at least in that case, which will be devastating not just for a region but also for a world in large. But let's continue. And TASS news agency also reporting, by the way, that U.S. aircraft carrier Dwight Eisenhower is already arrived in the point of its destination on the Middle East, on the shores of Israel, basically. And well, I did report about it day before yesterday, but TASS news agency is reporting. But TASS news agency did report about it yesterday. And well, this is true, by the way. Now US has 2 aircraft carrier strike groups in Mediterranean, and also at this point I guess this USS Bataan large amphibious warship is also deployed also in Mediterranean. And I remind you that few weeks ago, about 10 days ago, there were some reports also that US will send additional 2 aircraft carriers towards Middle East. And well, yet again, question is rising: why? To deter Hezbollah from getting involved in this conflict, all Washington needs to do is to make one call to Tel Aviv and tell Israeli government, just leave Hezbollah alone, don't provoke, and there will be no Hezbollah's involvement in this confrontation. But I'm quite sure, as I said, Western ruling elites want to escalate further and provoke regional war. And if I'm correct, then it's quite understandable why US is sending so much force in this region, so much firepower. These two aircraft carriers, by the way, carry more firepower than vast majority of countries in this world combined. It's only a few countries in this world, that have more firepower than these two aircraft carriers. And if there is additional two aircraft carriers on their way towards Middle East, then I don't know, man. It's I don't think 4 aircraft carriers US even used during this Iraqi operation, during the operation against Iraq. But anyway, let's continue. Point is that West NATO member states increasing their military presence in the Middle East, and I don't think this is done just to keep some third parties out of this conflict. Something else is definitely happening, and we will learn in coming days and weeks what exactly. And RIA Novosti is also reporting, by the way, that Turkey recalled its ambassador from Israel. Well, relationships between Israel and regional countries are deteriorating very fast, and Turkey is no exception. Although of course, I don't think there can be any scenario which will provoke Turkey to get involved in this confrontation directly. There will be some strong statements, and we did see some strong statements, and that's it really. I don't see any country, by the way, in the region or any party that wants to get involved in this conflict with Israel directly. There is nothing like that in the region. They are in support of Palestine, but they don't want to get involved in the war with the nuclear power, which is Israel, by the way, and which is backed by other nuclear powers, US, UK, France. So none of the regional countries or parties want to get involved in that war. And if they are not provoked, they will stay out. TASS news agency is reporting, by the way, that in capital of France, in Paris, there was quite a large demonstration in support of Palestinian people. And according to this report, about 19,000 people participated in this demonstration. And there's if I'm not mistaken, yesterday, on Saturday, some demonstration in support of Palestinians also were conducted in London and in Washington, by the way. So we also have a report that from 30 to 40,000 people did participate in demonstration in support of Palestinians, and basically in support of peace in the Washington, capital of US. And this is also interesting. TASS news agency is reporting that United Arab Emirates, President of United Arab Emirates, Anwar Gargash, did made a statement that Iran is playing constructive role in the region, and Iran is not interested in further escalation of the confrontation between Israel and Palestine. And this is very important statement, by the way. Oh, this is sorry, by the way, this is not the president of United Arab Emirates. This is aide of United Arab Emirates, Anwar Gargash. Well, this individual who spoke on behalf of president or leader of UAE did said that Iran is playing positive role and are trying to de-escalate situation, and Iran is not involved in any ways in this escalation. And this statement is important because United Arab Emirates do have working relationships with Iran and also with Israel. And one may say that United Arab Emirates is expressing, this individual is expressing position of not just UAE but also Saudi Arabia. And if Saudi Arabia has the same approach, then I guess all other states in the region will share this opinion, because Saudi Arabia is a major power when it comes to these kingdoms in the Persian Gulf, and you know, maybe with the exception of Qatar, because Qatar and Saudi Arabia, they have some issues historically. But anyway, this is quite important statement from United Arab Emirates that world needs to hear, because as I just said a few minutes ago, I don't see any indicators that any of the countries in the region, including Iran, wants to get involved in this confrontation, at least directly. So let's continue. RT is reporting that well, Paris warns Africa not to trade France for Russia. That's a headline on RT. And well, French Foreign Minister Catherine Colonna paid a visit to Nigeria on Friday, and well, during that visit she urged African nations not to develop relationships with Moscow instead of France. How desperate current leadership of France is to beg basically African nations to let them stay in Africa. I mean, wow, that's quite something, isn't it? And when it comes to relationships between, you know, African nations and France and African nations and Russia, there is very different history, by the way, of relationships. If France is a colonizer in Africa, France, United Kingdom, Denmark, Netherlands, and many other states, if they are seen, many other European or Western states, if they are seen as a colonizers historically, and they were colonizers and they are still colonizers, by the way, until they are trying to remain some power in Africa, they're still colonizers. Russia has very different history. Moscow has very different history of relationships with the African nations. And I remind you, dear friends, that Soviet Union was a major power who was supporting independent movements in African states, in African nations. And Soviet Union did quite a lot to help African nations to gain independence from these colonizers. And now this foreign minister of France is asking African states to cut relationships with Russia because France wants it this way. It will not work. This will not fly for sure. But seems like French, foreign ministry full of people like this Catherine Colonna. I doubt their professional qualities for sure, and seems like they are desperate. and they have no other option other than just beg African nations to let them stay in Africa, but they lost it. They lost it, and it's only a matter of time when France will finally leave Africa alone. And then it will be US. US will also will be forced to leave Africa alone. Let's continue. And the TASS news agency is reporting, by the way, that head of European Commission, this Ursula Tatters and washing machines, made a statement during her visit in Kiev that European Union is working on 12th package of anti-Russian sanctions, and in this package they will try to impose a new price cap on Russian oil, Russian crude oil, which will be significantly less than $60 that imposed right now. And yet again, how desperate these people are, these bureaucrats, these corrupt bureaucrats of EU and Western world in general, because as we all know, nobody in this world gives a damn about this price cap that G7 countries and EU already impose on Russia as a level of $60 for a barrel of Russian oil. Everybody buys Russian oil significantly higher price than $60. Even Japan, by the way, country that signed off on for that sanctions, for that price cap. Even Japan buys Russian oil somewhere around $70, if I'm not mistaken, for a barrel. And now they want to implement or introduce new price cap, which will be what? $50, $40. And how world gonna react on this? I mean, everyone gonna laugh, isn't it? If nobody cares about $60, who gonna cares if you will impose 50 or 40 or I don't know, 5? So these people, I mean, more increasingly are out of touch with reality, and I don't even know how long societies in the West gonna stay calm when they see what kind of people are basically representing them and making statements on their behalf. It's a shame, isn't it? I mean, it's Ursula, Michel, and this other one, Borrell, man. Wow, what a clowns, man. Unbelievable. And main point is, no one did vote for these guys. These are, I mean, bureaucrats, you know, that no one did vote for them. Anyway, let's continue. RT is reporting that EU countries ramp up Russian LNG imports. That's also quite interesting. So Spain and Belgium have increased their imports of Russian liquefied natural gas by 50% in 2023 compared to last year, according to Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis. Well, there is no need for comment on this information. It does speak volumes, isn't it? While these people, Ursula, Bursula, and the rest of them, are talking crap and making more and more crazy statements, that's what is happening in reality on the grounds. Spain and Belgium, because they find it difficult, I guess, to have a reach on Russian pipeline gas, because of Biden's administration, I guess. Otherwise, if there was if Nordstream pipelines did work properly, Europeans will have I don't know, 2-3 times cheaper gas. But anyway, for whatever reason, Spain and Belgium are increasing significantly import of Russian gas. And by the way, France is also one of the biggest buyers of Russian liquefied natural gas, Russian LNG. So this is what is happening on the ground. Despite all these strong statements that they don't need Russian energy, they don't need nothing Russian, reality is a little bit different, and sooner they will realize that they need Russia better. For everybody, by the way. For Russia, of course, it's important to have good relationships with the EU member states, of course. But unfortunately, and I don't think anybody will doubt this in Russia, but unfortunately, current leadership of EU, current leadership of members of EU states, with the exception of Slovakia and Hungary, they have different ideas. They don't want EU to have any deals with Russia. And it does not work. It's just simply not working. And that's numbers, by the way. Spain and Belgium increasing imports of Russian LNG by 50% this year. Anyway, let's continue. RT is reporting that BRICS trade surges ahead of enlargement. That was reported by Bloomberg, and RT is also writing about it. So the 5 current members of BRICS groups increased their trade by 56% from 2017 to 2022, reaching some 422 billion worth of turnover last year. Bloomberg reports, well, BRICS currently comprises Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, but will be joined by Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates this coming January. The decision to accept the new members was made during the group's August summit in Johannesburg. Well, by the way, I will say that even before these new members will join, trade between the BRICS nations already have increased significantly, because I did report it many times that, for example, trade between Russia and China this year increased few dozens of percent in comparison to previous year, and very same happened in trade with India. So at this point, this is number for 2022, but in 2023, I believe trade between BRICS countries will exceed 500 billion easily. And of course, very different numbers we will see when new members will join BRICS, obviously. So quite interesting, and well, once again, we have a good enough indicator that world economy is beginning to get divided in two halves. One is Western world or collective West and its economy, and other is rest of the world. That's how it is. And BRICS, of course, leading this rest of the world. And dear friends, this is gonna be last news for this first update. RT is reporting that share of non-cash payments in Russia hits 80%, which is also, I guess, interesting that digitization is reaching some quite heights, really. So the share of cashless transactions in Russia has surged to 80%, up to just 25% a decade ago. Up from just 25% decade ago. The head of the Bank of Russia, Elvira Nabiullina, said on Saturday, the share of non-cash payments is like a barometer for assessment of maturity of state financial system, Nabiullina said at the International Russia Expo, which kicked off in Moscow earlier in a day. The share of cashless transactions in the country has been steadily increasing over the past several years. Last year, the central bank reported that 79% of people in Russia prefer to pay for goods and services using non-cash methods of payment. And well, this is true, by the way. This is true. Very rarely I use cash to pay for anything. Very rarely. Usually all transactions, everything done by cards. And Russian market is quite developed in this sense, and Russian banks do providing quite a high quality service in this regards. It's very unfortunate that Western ruling class did sanction Russian banks, and Visa and MasterCard is not working in Russia, and Russians are unable to use their cards to pay some goods outside of Russia. And foreigners have some issues whenever they are traveling to Russia. But when it comes to situation inside Russia itself, well, Russian banks definitely provide quite high quality service, for sure. And when it comes to payments, yes, I mean it's you don't really need to carry with you any cash at this point. You can pay anywhere you go, and for anything you want with the cards. And yes, this is it for now. It's quite comfortable, really. It's quite comfortable. And how long is this video? Wow, 1 hour and 12 minutes. Unbelievable. Dear friends, I remind you, or I will make one announcement. From tomorrow I want to try new format, and without promises, but I have such an idea, and I will share that idea with you now. I want to make one short video in the morning, and ordinary update some 6-7 hours after that, so that who has just small time to spare on content, on video news update, they can watch this short video, and they will receive, I will try to put as much information as possible in that short video. And if you have more time to spare for a news update, then you can watch or listen this main update. So let's see, I will try to do it for a week. If it works, it works. If not, then I will go back to this usual format with one main update. But anyway, this is it for now. Hopefully you will find this video interesting, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary about any topic you like. This is the only way we have to fight back this immensely aggressive YouTube algorithm, and to reach wider audience. And for very same reason, if you can, please share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on any of the platforms that you are active on. And finally, if you think this project with several channels on YouTube, Rumble and Telegram are interesting, useful, informative, and deserves to exist, please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, buy me a coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You will see links on this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.